Welcome. This session is to go over the Revive system for setting up advertisements on your MWR website. Once you've logged in, you'll be brought to the dashboard. This is the dashboard view that you're seeing here. This is an overview of the information for all of the garrisons that are using the Revive system. So we're not going to spend much time here. I do want to review the navigation. If we look at the top left here, we can see that the Home tab is highlighted in green. That's showing us the location that we're viewing right now. If we want to move over to Statistics and click on that tab, then it will also highlight in green. Let's take a moment to look at this particular tab and the items that are available. The Statistics will show you the different stats that are happening for each garrison as an aggregate for all their advertisements. So we can see here that we see the garrison names, we see impressions, clicks, click-through rates. We can filter this. With this drop down here, we can choose any of the parameters to filter. We can also filter by date range, and you can specify the date range that you want to filter. The remaining menu items here under Statistics are really at a very high level, and they're not very relevant for each individual garrison, so we're not going to review those in today's session. Next, I want to move over to the Inventory tab. And again, the green is highlighting where we are currently viewing on the screen. Under Inventory, we have 3 additional navigation tabs. And I'm going to spend a moment now to just provide some definitions. So the way we're using the term advertisers is to list the garrison names. So each advertiser is actually a garrison. So you'll look in this listing here to find your particular garrison, and that's where you would work. If for some reason you don't see your garrison listed here, once you're live on the Enterprise Web System, it will be available. So don't think of advertisers in the traditional sense that these are the companies. Look at advertisers as you, the individual garrisons. If you wanted to see some parameters or some properties about a particular garrison, just click on the garrison name and you will see the properties here. Let's go back to our overall view. Now let's define campaigns. Campaigns are the actual companies or vendors that you're working with who are going to place advertisements on your website. So again, an advertiser is the garrison, a campaign is the company that's placing the advertisement. You can have as many campaigns as you want. Within a campaign, we then have banners. Banners are the actual advertisements themselves. So this is the artwork. So whether it's a square advertisement or it's a leaderboard ad, this is the actual artwork for the advertisement. You can have an unlimited number of banners. So we should look at this as a hierarchy. Our advertisers as our garrison, our campaigns are the companies that we're working with to place advertisements on our pages, and banners are the actual advertisements themselves. So let's take a deeper look now. Under the listing of advertisements, we see again all of our garrison names. If we move over to the right-hand side, we can see an opportunity to add a new campaign or to view existing campaigns. Let's start by viewing some existing campaigns. Let's pick a particular garrison name and we'll scroll over to the right and we can see that we can add a new campaign or view existing campaigns. Let's start by viewing existing campaigns. We'll click on the word campaigns, and now it will show us the campaigns that have been established for this particular garrison. We can see the status of the campaign, whether it's currently running, the type of the ad, and we'll go into this in a moment when I show you actually how to set up your own campaigns and advertisements. You can see you can add new banners and the banners themselves. And then we can see sort of a summary of what's happening. And so how many impressions, what's the conversion, when did they start, when is the end date. So we can see this for all the different campaigns that are set up. So there's another campaign here that's currently running. And let's take a look at the banners that are associated with that campaign. let's take a look at another campaign. This is a campaign that has been completed, but let's take a look at the banners that were set up for this particular campaign. So this is an overview of what the campaigns look like. Just want to point out at the top here you can see exactly where you're located, that we're in the campaign section for Fort Carson. And again, you can see by the green highlights we know that we are in the campaign section. So let's go back to the top again to our listing of advertisers. So I just want to reiterate our hierarchy. Advertisers are the garrison names, campaigns are the companies that we're working with to place advertisements on our pages, and banners are the actual advertisements themselves. Now that you've had a preview into advertisers and campaigns and banners, let's now take a look at how to set up a new campaign. There are a couple ways to do this. The first way is when you're on your inventory tab and in the list of advertisers, you can find your particular garrison name, move over to the right hand side, and you'll see a link that says Add New Campaign. Let's go ahead and click on that, and it brings us to adding a new campaign. Let's go back a moment and let me show you another way. A different way that you can do it is to move to the campaigns link, and then you can choose a garrison from the drop down. You'll see the garrison existing campaigns, and at the top left here we can see Add a New Campaign. Either of these two ways will work in setting up a new campaign, but it's extremely important to make sure that you're setting up a campaign under your garrison name. So again, you want to make sure that you're in your garrison as the advertiser before you set up a new campaign. To add a new campaign, I'm going to start at inventory and I'm going to choose advertisers so that I can see a list of the garrisons. Again, this is just to reiterate that you want to make sure that you're in your garrison name before you set up a campaign. So I'm going to find my garrison name. I'm going to scroll over to the right, click on Add New Campaign, and now I have the parameters for adding a new campaign. We're going to start by naming this campaign. We do have a naming convention for the campaigns, and we really urge you to follow this. So a preferred naming convention is to specify the company name, and then the date parameters, and then some kind of a description about what this campaign is about. Then you're going to choose the type of campaign, and you're going to choose Remnant. This is the only one that's active right now, so please do not choose anything other than Remnant. And then you're going to scroll down, you're going to complete this form. We'll specify a date that our campaign is going to start. It can either be immediately or we can set a specific date. If you have chosen the method with your advertiser that they'll pay by the number of clicks, then you'll want to fill out this pricing section here. You'll want to choose CPM as your pricing model. That's the only one that we offer, and that stands for cost per thousand. The standard cost per thousand is $10, so you'll specify 10 in that field. If you've specified in the contract a certain number of impressions that your advertiser will receive, then you'll specify that number in this field. If the number of impressions was unlimited based on the contract, then just click off Unlimited. Now we get to campaign weight. The campaign weight should be set to 0. Let me define what that campaign weight is all about. The campaign weight is the frequency of display in relation to other campaigns. When you're first setting up a campaign, it should always be 0. When you're ready to launch, then you'll want to come back and change that campaign weight to 1. When you specify 1, then that means all campaigns will display equally. But when you're first setting up your campaign, you really want to have that at 0 because you haven't completed setting up this campaign, and you need to do so, set up all the parameters with the banners before you want this to turn on. So you want to set that to 0. And we'll come back to this and change it to 1 when we're ready to launch our campaign. This next section here you can ignore. We're actually not using this functionality right now. You can also ignore the miscellaneous section. Now we'll go ahead and click on Save Changes. We do get a message that's just confirming that we have our campaign weight set to 0. And that's fine. That's exactly what we want right now. So let's go ahead and continue. Now we can see by this green box that our campaign was added. And we'll scroll down so that we can see where that campaign shows in our display of campaigns. And here we have it here with our status of inactive because we haven't quite finished setting up our campaign. Now that we've added our campaign, the next step is to add the advertisement that goes along with that campaign. There are a couple of ways to do this as well. The first way I'm going to show you is while we're still in the campaign section of our Garrison. I just added the campaign and I can see I have a link to Add New Banner. Let's go ahead and click on Add New Banner. Here again, you want to fill out the form. Just like when we're setting up a campaign, we filled out a form. We're going to do so in setting up our advertisement. The first step is to choose the type of banner. It defaults to upload a local banner to the web server. This is, in fact, the one that you should use. There are other options here, but please do not use those. Choose the first one that it defaults to. The next step is to name our banner ad. And just like in campaigns we had a naming convention, we also do with advertisements, with the banners. So here, what we'd like you to do is to use your Garrison name, the client, so the advertiser, and the zone. What a zone means is it's the location on the website that you want to have this advertisement placed. And I'll get into zones again in a minute. But this is where you want the advertisement to appear on your website. The next step is to choose our file. So we're going to go to our file structure and we're going to find our advertisement. And we'll open that up so we know we're uploading that particular file. The next step is to put in the destination link. This is where you want to link to if somebody were to click on the advertisement, where do you want that advertisement to go? So in this case, we want it to go to the home page of USAA. Under Target, you can ignore this field. You can also ignore the section Banner Display. And under Additional Data, I'm going to ignore keywords. But under the weight, just like I did with the campaign, I'm going to change this to 0. And again, this is just while we're setting up our campaigns and our banner ads. So once we are ready to launch this, then we're going to go back and we'll change that. But for right now, again, you want to keep that weight to 0. And then under comments, you can add any comments that you want. This is for internal use, so if you want to put some notes in here as to what this advertisement is about, that's fine. Only you will see that. And then we'll go ahead and click on Save Changes. And now we can see our banner advertisement. And we can see again in this green box, it lets us know that our banner was added successfully. If we scroll over a little bit to the right hand side here, we just see a little bit of a summary of our banner. So we can see that it's a leaderboard ad size, and we can see the destination URL and the campaign weight. We'll talk about ad sizes in a moment. Now earlier I mentioned that there were 2 ways to set up your banners. The first way was we went to Inventory, Campaigns, and then set up our banner. The other way is to go to Inventory and go straight to Banners, and then you can set it up that way. And right now it defaults to the banner we just added. While we're in the banner section looking at our advertisement, I'd like to point out a couple of key things about the advertisement itself. So first of all, if this advertisement didn't fit one of the sizes that we have on the website, then it would not display here. So when you're uploading your advertisement, if you don't see it display, it means that it doesn't fit one of the size parameters of the advertising locations on the website. And we'll talk about that again when we get into zones and placing your advertisements in specific locations. The other thing to point out is that there is a maximum file size, so advertisements can only be 80 kilobytes in size. You can add more than one advertisement per campaign. So for example, right now we specify this as a leaderboard. This is going to appear on the top of the Enterprise Web on your home page. We also have square advertisements that appear off to the right or at the bottom of your page. So if this particular advertiser wanted to have a different size ad also on the website, then you can add another banner. And you would do that by clicking on the Add New Banner link at the top left here. Right now we don't support flash advertisements, but a great alternative is to use an animated GIF. I also want to point out that we do have a design guide. And if you're looking for guidance in how to create an effective advertisement, you can find that in the Enterprise Web under User Guides. So let's summarize what we've done so far. We went into Inventory and we set up a campaign under our garrison name of Detroit. Under that campaign, we added a banner, which is an advertisement. And we're seeing that advertisement in front of us now. The next step is to place this advertisement on a particular location of our website. To do this, we'll click on the link Delivery. The delivery is where we'll specify where our advertisement will display. You can see there are 4 tabs across the top here. The first one is Banner Properties, and this is where we set up the banner to begin with. The second is Delivery Options, which is what we're seeing here. And then we see Linked Zones and Advanced. We're going to focus on Linked Zones and Delivery Options. Let's go ahead and click on Linked Zones. You've heard me mention the word zones a couple of times now, and I'll clearly define it. Zones are particular locations on the Enterprise Web system where advertisements can appear. Those zones also have specific size dimensions associated with them. So for example, we have a long skinny ad, similar to what you're seeing here in USAA, that appears across the top of pages on the Enterprise Web system. This is called Leaderboard. We also have square advertisements that typically appear to the right or at the bottom of the content on your web page. These are called sideboards. The Revive system is smart enough to know what the size of your ad is and which zone it fits within. So for example, below the ad I can see these zones that are available to me to specify where I want to place the ad. So it only shows the zones that fit the size dimensions of this particular advertisement. So in this case, I want to choose Leaderboard. So I'm going to click on Leaderboard because that's where I want it to appear, is at the top of my page. I'm then going to click Save Changes. And you can see whenever you do an activity, this green bar will provide you with the status. So it is specifying that I did link one zone. Once I've linked the zones, then I'm going to go to Delivery Options. Delivery Options will allow me to specify where specifically I want to put my advertisement. So I know a location, which is Leaderboard, that's the size, but now I want to specify where specifically on my page I want it to appear. So you can specify different delivery limitations here with this drop down. You can choose any one of these parameters and then add it. I've previously chosen Site Channel, and this is to determine my particular garrison. So I choose Site Channel, and then I'll choose the definition is any of. You have other options here. And now I want to go to my particular garrison. So I'll look for my garrison that I set this up with, which was set up on Detroit, and I'll check that off. So I want this to appear on the Detroit garrison page. You can ignore this next section, as these are functions that are not implemented at this time. Let's go ahead now and click on Save Changes. Again, we can see in the green status bar that it has saved our delivery options for this particular banner advertisement. If I want to further limit where this advertisement is going to appear on my page, I can set up additional delivery options. So I'm going to go ahead and add another site channel. And the first one, we specified that we want it to appear on the Detroit Arsenal page. And the next one, I want to now specify a particular category. So I can search and look for categories. In this instance, I want it to appear only in the category of financial. And these categories are associated with the categories in the enterprise web system. So any event that is associated with the category of financial, this advertisement will appear. Again, I'll ignore this section and then I'll save my changes. I can see my status is updated, that I've added another delivery option. So the final step to activate our advertisement is to go back to our campaign and set that campaign weight to 1. So to do that, we'll go to Campaigns over here on the left-hand side. We can scroll to find the campaign that we were just working on. We'll select that, and it takes us We can now see our campaign properties and a little note that our campaign is not active because the weight is set to 0. And that's exactly what we wanted when we set this up. So now that we have set up the campaign, we've set up our banners, we uploaded the advertisement, and we specified where we want the advertisements to fit, now it's time to activate our campaign. So we'll scroll to the campaign weight, and we'll now change that to 1. And then we'll save our changes. Again, our status bar shows us that this campaign has been updated. The final step to activate our campaign is to change the weight to 1. We have to change the weight in 2 places. If you recall, when we set up the campaign, we had a weight of 0, and when we set up the banner, we also had a weight of 0. So we need to go back to these 2 locations and edit that. So since we're in the banner already, we can just go to Banner Properties, scroll to the weight, and change that to 1, save our changes, and again our status bar lets us know that we have updated our banner. The next step is to go to the campaign. We'll scroll to find that particular campaign that we set up. We'll click on the campaign name. It takes us to its properties. And we do see a note here that's specifying that it's not active because its weight is set to 0. We'll go ahead and we'll change that now. So we'll set the campaign weight to 1, and we'll save our changes. And again, the status bar shows us that that has been updated. This will now activate our campaign. To view that, let's take a look at our campaigns for our garrison. And when we scroll to the bottom, we can now see the status is running. So that campaign is now active. Although we're showing that our campaign is activated, it can still take up to 2 hours for it to refresh onto the enterprise web system. Don't be concerned if you don't see your advertisement appear right away. Now that you know how to set up a campaign and the advertisements that go along with that campaign, I want to take a moment to just reiterate a couple of key points. The first thing is to make sure when you're setting up a campaign that you're doing it under your garrison. You will find your garrison name under Advertisers. Let's review the navigation again as a way to emphasize that point. You'll spend most of your time in the Inventory tab. From the Inventory tab, you can access Advertisers. Advertisers are the name of the garrisons. Each garrison can have campaigns. Campaigns are advertisers or companies that you're working with who want to display advertisements on your page. Once you set up a campaign, then you'll set up banners. Those are the actual advertisements themselves that are going to go along with that campaign. You can access the banners from the inventory menu as well. It's important to make sure that you follow the naming conventions. We have naming conventions for both campaigns and the banners. When you make changes to your campaigns or your banners, you'll see the green status bar change. We saw that several times throughout this session. Also, when you're setting up your campaigns and your banners, remember to keep the weight at 0. You'll do this just while you're setting up your campaigns and your banners. Once everything is completed, you'll go back to both the campaign and the banner section and change the weight to 1, and that will activate your advertisement. I want to reiterate delivery options for when you're setting up your banners. You'll click on Delivery, and then you'll have access to the 4 tabs. Delivery options are where you specify where on your website you want these advertisements to appear. Again, the linked zones are the actual sizes of the advertisements. Because this advertisement is of a particular size, it fits in the size of Sidebar 1 and Sidebar 2. We saw that earlier with our leaderboard ad. If for some reason you're not sure what the ad size is, you can always go to Banner Properties. The Banner Properties will show you specifically what your ad size is once it's uploaded. It's important to make sure that your advertisements are effective. A good practice is to take a look at those advertisements and to see how they look on a mobile device. If you need help in designing advertisements or you want to provide some guidance to your advertisers, then please look at our design guide on the Enterprise Web under User Guides. That concludes this session on how to set up your advertisements on the Enterprise Web. We encourage you to view other training sessions about the Enterprise Web. And specifically, there is a session about the Statistics tab on the Revive server. This will provide you with information that you can send on to your advertisers. Thanks for your attention, and we look forward to seeing you at another session.